Howdy Smite fans, it's J-Mac. Phase 2, week number 8, our final week of play before Masters is now over. And it was one of our fastest weeks of play at that. We had a lot of unexpected matchups and maybe even some unexpected results during those matches. So let's take a look back at what happened in this week's episode of the SPL Weekly Recap. Well, our Friday started out with the Jade Dragons up against the Oni Warriors. We got our first look at Scream with the Dragons, and it went a lot better than expected. While not achieving the wildest of slash lines, Scream was a perfect slot in for the Dragons as he and the rest of the team put up a clean performance across the board with a 2-0 win over the Oni Warriors. And then after that, we had the Tartarus Titans against the Olympus Bolts. In both games, the Tartarus Titans pulled an early lead over the Bolts. In both games, the Olympus Bolts punched back at around a 5,000 deficit. And in both games, the Tartarus Titans bounced back almost immediately. After rallying together, they were able to find themselves with a 2-0 win over the Olympus Bolts. And now our triple header Saturday, yeah, you heard that one right, headlined with the Jade Dragons against the Solar Scarabs. Both teams had traded their junglers, but it was clear that this matchup, which team got the better end of that trade. The Dragons' side lanes controlled the pace of the game and allowed Scream to facilitate the kills over towards the carries for the Dragons to take a 2-0 over the Solar Scarabs. And our second set was the Camelot Kings against the Olympus Bolts. Our top two seeded teams did not go as closely as one would expect. A long win in game number 1 went fairly quiet for the Kings, and in game number 2, Variety held up his end of the promise in one of his interviews by going with Lancelot solo. Not only did he perform well on it with a 6-1 and 6 slash line to end the game, the Camelot Kings were able to end the set with a 2-0. But if you want a set to go back and watch from week number 8, you're going to want to tune into the Valhalla Valkyries against the Atlantis Leviathans. Game 1 started out pretty well for the Valks, avoiding being first blooded on solo side of the map, and then first blooding the Leviathans on the duo side. From there, the Valkyries built up a hefty lead over the Leviathans. One stolen fire giant by the Levi's did delay the game, but after the Valkyries were able to secure their next fire giant, it was curtain called for the Atlantis Leviathans in game number 1. Game 2 was a much bloodier bout, but one team fight going to the Valks, the next one to the Levi's, and so on and so forth until the very end of the game. Yark then gets caught out over in a fight around the fire giant and almost died, and then a fantastic setup from Kirmi and the rest of the Valkyries gives them the edge, and they are able to wipe the Leviathans and take the set 2-0. And opening up our Sunday, we once again have the Jade Dragons, but this time it's against the Tartarus Titans. Game 1 was a Panda Cat pop-off game as one solo kill in the duo lane swung the door wide open for the Dragons to steamroll through the remainder and take Game 1 over the Titans. Game 2 was a much closer matchup, nearly even 15 minutes in. But a few small skirmishes into an extended fire giant fight netted a lead for the Dragons, and they were able to take the set 2-0. Well, next up was the Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors. And these two teams really just chose violence in this set because game number 1 chalked up to a 51 kill total game, and game number 2, while not quite as high, was a still fairly kill heavy game. However, in both of those games, it was the Camelot Kings who came out on top to put down the Oni Warriors for a 2-0 set. And our final set of phase number 2 was the Solar Scarabs against the Atlantis Leviathans. The Leviathans needed just one game to clinch 5th seed. And while the Scarabs showed fight in both of their games against the Leviathans, the lead kept slowly creeping out of control towards the Leviathans. It's the Levi's who took not just one, but both games to come out on top for a 2-0 to close out the phase. And there you have it. Week 8, phase 2 is now wrapped up. It was all 2-0s to end out our phase, and it's the Camelot Kings who are your phase 2 regular season champions. But it's not over yet. Immediately, starting on Wednesday, July 3rd, we're going to be kicking off the Smite Summers Masters event, and it's definitely one you're going to want to tune in towards. All 8 of our SMITEPro League teams and the top 4 EU and NA SCC teams are all going to be duking out to see who will claim the title of the true Phase 2 champions. So make sure that you are watching that because, as I said, it starts on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Catch up on all of the action on our SmiteBod YouTube channel, watch behind-the-scenes content on SMITEPro, or catch the action live on twitch.tv/SmiteGame. I'm J-Mac Tucker, and this has been the SPL Weekly Recap.